Edward G. Robinson. Do we truly understand this man beyond the iconic gangster image he portrayed on screen? He was known as a reformer, someone who tirelessly dedicated himself to society and the arts. But what about his hidden scars? How did the wounds from family tragedies and the brutal fight against the Hollywood blacklist shape him? This article aims to open another window, allowing you to see a more authentic Edward G. Robinson, not just a star, but a man full of blemishes, yet incredibly resilient. Life and career. Edward G. Robinson's life, born Emanuel Goldenberg in Bucharest, Romania in 1893, stands as a vivid testament to the American dream. As a young boy who emigrated with his family to New York's Lower East Side, Robinson faced the myriad hardships common to immigrants. English was a formidable barrier, and his family struggled greatly to make ends meet. Nevertheless, a burning passion for the stage ignited within him early on. He enrolled in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where his innate talent began to blossom. Initially, he sought opportunities on Broadway, learning and refining his acting skills in various plays before he ever set foot in Hollywood. Edward G. Robinson's film career truly took off in the 1930s. His portrayal of Rico Bandello in the classic film Little Caesar, 1931, propelled him to stardom overnight. With his distinctive gravelly voice, piercing gaze, and commanding presence, he defined the gangster archetype on screen, a role that subsequently became his trademark. However, being typecast in gangster roles proved to be a double-edged sword. While these parts brought him fame and fortune, Robinson always yearned to break free from that shadow to demonstrate his diverse acting range. He succeeded in this through films of other genres, such as his role as the clever insurance investigator in the film noir Double Indemnity, 1944, or the deranged killer in The Woman in the Window, 1944, and Scarlet Street, 1945. These performances proved that Edward G. Robinson was not merely a gangster, but a true artist capable of transforming into all manner of complex characters, from heroes to villains, from tragedy to comedy. Beyond his acting prowess, Edward G. Robinson was also widely known as a reformer, an intellectual with a profound sense of social responsibility. He was a powerful voice advocating for civil rights and progressive social movements. In an era when racial segregation was still prevalent, Robinson did not hesitate to speak out against injustice, participating in performances and donating money to humanitarian causes. He believed that artists had a responsibility to use their voice to foster positive changes in society. Robinson's greatest passion outside of acting was collecting art. He was a far-sighted collector, quick to recognize the value of Impressionist and post-Impressionist works when they were not yet widely acknowledged in America. His collection, featuring works by Vincent van Gogh, Paul Cézanne, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, and many other renowned painters, was considered one of the most important private collections of its time. This passion not only showcased his refined aesthetic taste, but was also a significant part of his identity as a person, a part that stood in stark contrast to his gangster image on film. However, it was precisely his liberal political views and active social engagement that brought Robinson under government scrutiny during the McCarthyism era and the Hollywood blacklist in the 1950s. Although not a Communist Party member, he was nonetheless suspected and compelled to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC. This was a dark period in Hollywood history, where many artists had their careers ruined by baseless accusations. Robinson had to endure tense hours facing intense scrutiny and immense pressure, forced to clarify his humanitarian activities and personal views. Although he was eventually cleared and continued his career, the emotional scars and financial damages from this period were immense, forming a significant part of the hidden scars that we will explore further. Personal tragedy and wounds. Behind the powerful star image on screen and the steadfast reformer in real life, Edward G. Robinson carried deep hidden scars, profound personal tragedies, and emotional pain known to few. These not only tested his will but also shaped him in unexpected ways. One of the largest and most painful scars in Edward G. Robinson's life was the period he became entangled in the Hollywood blacklist during the dark McCarthyism era of the 1950s. This was a campaign to hunt down those suspected of having communist ties, transforming Hollywood into a battlefield of suspicion and fear. Although Robinson was never a Communist Party member, his liberal political views, public support for civil rights movements, and humanitarian activities made him a target of the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC. He was forced to testify before the committee, facing difficult accusatory questions and immense pressure to name names of colleagues to save his own career. This period was a terrible ordeal for Robinson. His reputation and image were severely tarnished. Film studios hesitated to cast him, causing his career to nearly freeze. For a talented and passionate actor like him, being stripped of the right to work was a torment no less severe than imprisonment. He was compelled to pay a specialist to whitewash his public image, a great humiliation to the pride of an upright man. Although he was later cleared and gradually returned to the screen, the scars of betrayal, suspicion, and emotional loss were impossible to heal. This period left a lingering bitterness in his soul, making him more cautious and reserved on political matters. This is a classic example of a reformer being turned upon by the very society he wished to improve, causing a profound emotional wound. Besides the scars from political pressure, Edward G. Robinson also faced tragedy within his own family. His relationship with his only son, Edward G. Robinson Jr., known as Manny, was a continuous source of heartbreak. Manny grew up in the immense shadow of his famous father, struggling with numerous psychological issues, addiction, and frequently getting into trouble with the law. The Robinsons had a complex relationship filled with both love and conflict. Edward G. Robinson tried his utmost to help his son from paying off debts and helping Manny overcome addiction to attempting to guide him into a career. However, all efforts seemed futile. The pain of watching his son spiral downwards, unable to control his own life, wore heavily on his spirit. Manny's tragic death at the age of 40 due to a drug overdose was a huge shock, an inconsolable loss for Edward G. Robinson. This was one of the most difficult scars to heal, demonstrating the agony of a helpless father facing his son's fate despite fame and fortune. Furthermore, Robinson's first marriage to actress Gladys Lloyd was also a source of significant financial and emotional scars. The marriage lasted over 29 years, but ultimately ended in a tumultuous divorce in 1956. This was one of Hollywood's most expensive divorces at the time. Robinson had to give his ex-wife half of his assets, including his precious art collection, which he had spent a lifetime accumulating. Having to sell off the artworks he cherished like treasures, the paintings he loved more than money itself, was an extreme torment. It wasn't just a financial loss, but the loss of a part of his soul, a part of his very identity. That collection was his passion, a place where he found peace and beauty amidst a harsh life. Being forced to give it up due to marital troubles left a huge void in his life, compelling him to work ceaselessly in his later years to compensate for the losses. These scars are not merely sad stories in Edward G. Robinson's life. They are crucial elements that shaped him, revealing a deeper and more humane aspect of his character. They attest to his extraordinary resilience in facing continuous challenges both from society and within his family. Edward G. Robinson lived a grand life, but also one filled with unspoken pains, making him a more complex, authentic, and respected figure than ever before. The legacy and meaning of the scars. The deep scars etched into Edward G. Robinson's life are not merely sad stories. They are, in fact, proof of a powerful legacy which contributed to his genuine depth and greatness. We often remember him as a celebrated film star, but it was precisely these hardships that transformed him into an emblem of resilience and recovery. Despite facing the near collapse of his career, due to the Hollywood blacklist, enduring baseless accusations, and witnessing his family's dissolution, along with the sorrow of losing his son Robinson, never gave up. He did not surrender to adversity, but continued to work tirelessly, dedicating himself to his art until the end of his life. This astonishing perseverance helped him overcome the most challenging period, reclaim his standing in Hollywood, and continue to leave his final marks on the silver screen. This offers a profound lesson in the will to rise above all misfortunes, showing an indomitable spirit not easily brought down by pressure or personal tragedy. These scars also unveil the complexity of an icon whose public image often presented only one aspect. Edward G. Robinson was not simply a talented actor or an idealistic reformer. He was a human being full of contradictions, hidden corners, and unspoken pains. It was these very imperfections that transformed him from a two-dimensional figure on screen into a truly deep character, a real person, more relatable and admirable. We see a man who loved art so profoundly that it caused him extreme agony to sell his life's collection, a father helpless against his son's harsh fate, and an upright citizen turned upon by society. These elements do not diminish his worth. Quite the opposite, they enrich Robinson's legacy, making him more approachable and authentic than ever before. Finally, Edward G. Robinson's life, with its hidden scars, leaves behind many valuable lessons. His story reminds us of the importance of looking beyond an individual's public image. It also serves as a stark warning about the dangers of factionalism and the suppression of free thought as witnessed during the McCarthyism era. Above all, Robinson's story teaches us about the power of courage in standing up for one's beliefs, even when the cost is high. He fought for justice, for the right to express himself, and for his very being becoming an everlasting inspiration for future generations. Edward G. Robinson's legacy is not confined to his immortal roles or his renowned art collection. It also resides in the very scars he carried, living testaments to a life full of trials, yet one that resiliently persevered, leaving an indelible mark of talent, fortitude, and compassion. Dưới đây là bản dịch của các đoạn văn bản vừa gửi tuân thủ. Mọi yêu cầu đặc biệt là việc giữ nguyên từng đoạn và sử dụng ngôn ngữ gần gũi với người Anh trên 60 tuổi. Life's Scars and Priceless Lessons. Dear esteemed audience, those of you who have seen more than 60 springs and have tasted the salt of life's storms and the sweetness of success, you will surely find a part of yourselves in the story of Edward G. Robinson. His life, with its deep scars from personal tragedies and the harshness of fate, especially during the Hollywood blacklist era, is perhaps not so unfamiliar to the experiences many of you have shouldered. We who have witnessed the world change have also been through moments that seemed insurmountable. Perhaps it was a major upheaval in a career, a family breakdown, or the daily worries about children whom we helplessly watched lose their way. Edward G. Robinson was no different. He once stood at the pinnacle of fame, yet he was also pushed into the abyss of suspicion, forced to sell off an invaluable art fortune that he had spent his entire life building. His pain in witnessing his son go astray and in facing injustice from the authorities are perhaps emotions many of you have also experienced. But what makes a great person? It's not the absence of scars, but how we carry them. Robinson did not let those wounds defeat him. He rose, continued to work, continued to contribute, and in the end, those very scars became proof of his inner strength, of his extraordinary resilience. They did not weaken him. On the contrary, they made him more authentic, more profound, and infinitely more respected. Edward G. Robinson's life is a reminder that scars are not signs of failure, but medals of battles we have overcome. They are proof that we have lived, loved, suffered, and fought. Above all, they are a silent source of strength, helping us to understand and empathize more with those around us, for truly, who among us does not carry their own scars? Edward G. Robinson was not merely a legendary gangster on screen, nor solely a devoted reformer. He was a complete human being, shaped by both the limelight and deep, hidden scars. His life is an epic tale of talent, fortitude, and especially extraordinary resilience in the face of every storm. These scars did not dim his legacy. On the contrary, they made that legacy more authentic, relatable, and inspiring than ever before. We can learn so much from Robinson's life about how to confront adversity, about the importance of holding on to one's beliefs, and about the value of experiences, even the bitterest ones. Dear esteemed audience, after joining me in exploring the hidden aspects of Edward G. Robinson's life, what resonates most deeply with you? Do his scars bring to mind any experiences or lessons from your own life? Please share your thoughts and feelings in the comments section. Don't forget to follow our channel so you don't miss out on more inspiring stories and profound insights into other great figures.